10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Liftoff, and the clock is liftoff.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And as we put lipstick on a pig, it's time now for Kerbalcast episode 52, the lesser of two evils.
Just think, when you were getting down and out about all the liars and dirty cheats in the world, you could have been getting down to this sick beat.
I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin. And with me, our CMP, Command Module Pilot
Nostromo.
Coming up in today's program, Eve, you horrible, horrible planet. And Tweakin It, it's our progress in the game.
We got audio letters. Lots and lots of audio letters.
And another edition of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals.
And your letters and tweets in the mission briefing.
Okay, that is absolute proof that a horrible song is a horrible song,
Yeah.
no matter who does it.
You can't do much about it.
You cannot do much about it. That is truly lipstick on a pig.
So the AV Club has a series they do where they have a list of tracks, list of popular tracks, and they have other bands play those tracks. Mm-hmm. And that
is
was
so funny.
Screaming Females doing
Yeah.
Shake It Off. And I want to think that they were mocking it.
Yeah. Well, they even said at the beginning, they asked the lead singer, they said, what do you think of the song? And she was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that rap part, though.
And I, if I remember right, in that series, they get to pick.
Well, it's what it is they have a list of songs.
And the list gets like shorter and shorter.
Yeah. What the whole idea behind it is you take songs and you match them with bands that the songs would be very atypical for. Mm-hmm. And so that's how you end up with indie grunge punk bands doing, Backstreet Boys and Justin Bieber. And
Yeah. And
she who must not be named.
Okay, like I understand wanting to mock it or whatever,
Right,
but I mean,
right.
this is a chance to promote your band,
No, I understand wanting to mock it.
Yeah. I
really understand wanting to mock it.
I would rather do a rendition that is just like, knock your socks off amazing.
Yeah.
And getting people to be like, see, this is how you can turn a not so great song great.
I have a feeling their core audience probably appreciates the mockery more than the
Yeah.
Because I think if they ever found themselves liking anything that had to do with She Who Must Not Be Named, they would go home and cry themselves to sleep.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
They would hug their Jim Morrison pillow.
I think it's just a more, positive way to do it.
This is the end, my friend.
Yeah.
So how was your week?
It was good. Kerbal wise, it was a lot of just refining. I still haven't really gotten a lot of orbiting done or probes or anything like that. I've just been doing suborbitals and I've been doing some flying around. I have that Kerbal party bus that I had from last week, and I'm trying to make it, to where I could do those contracts and parts testing. But
the Kerbal party bus?
Yeah, I have that thing. It's probably not the most efficient way to do it. I mean, of course I'm doing it, so it's probably not. There there's got to be an easier way.
There's got to be.
So
I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah, there may be a better way to put it together, but anytime I put a part on, it loses its ability to go to do a full suborbital.
Right.
Because it needs to go like over 75,000, and I put on some Thud engines, and it just just because I needed to test those, put on 2 of them, and I gave them a little bit of fuel, so that would be kind of fun, and it wouldn't get high enough. So I had to throw on another fuel tank, and it still didn't get high enough. And I was like, I don't know if the fuel tank's holding itself down now. So I threw on another fuel tank, and it did.
Right.
So it's just trying to find this balance of like, how big is the part I want to test? Is it too heavy for this thing? Because I just want to knock out like 1 or 2 parts contracts along with the, ferry 2 chumps along,
Is that the official name of the?
Yeah. Take these 2 chumps to space. And, so, I've been doing that and also using it as a chance to get some experience to my, not as often used Kerbals. Like, I've been giving experience to Jebediah and Valentina, but, now I'm giving it to, Bob and Bill. And so, like, leveling those guys up and just trying to make it as effective as possible.
Right.
But there's a lot of trial and error. So like I had those thud engines on either side, and I realized that you need to, it didn't really matter where they sat, or at least so I thought. They need to sit behind the wings. Otherwise, they will destroy the wings. So, because I was like, oh, it doesn't matter where they are. It'll be fine. And so they needed to put them behind, but then that put the weight off whenever it would re-enter. And so it would go in butt first. And then like the whole back half would blow up. Mm-hmm. And so it was just like this carnival of errors,
Right.
Like, so just, okay, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So I may just make a whole new craft for parts testing and then just have one for fairing people. Just, trying to maximize the amount of money. The contracts don't give out a lot of science. All the ones that I've had so far, it's like 1 to 5. So I need to go make some new discoveries just to, boost that up because I need to get new parts. Because things like struts or, like the 1 to 3 conversion connector,
right.
Like those are things I really want before I really start going for harder stuff. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have to wait on that. And I'm really wondering the kind of ship that I normally would make whenever I'd try to go to the MUN or orbits or anything like that. I haven't experienced it with the new aerodynamics model, so I'm real interested to see how that old design would hold up now. Mm-hmm. But that's been the majority of my progress, Kerbal wise. It's just mainly just tweaking everything I have and trying to get the most bang for my buck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, last night I got on Steam and I watched Nero Prime play, and I was since I haven't gotten in and looked at the career mode in 1.0, I was really impressed with the new menus and the way everything looks. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did a rescue a Kerbal in orbit, a stranded Kerbal mission, and it was really neat to just sit there and watch him do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I'm giving a shout out to Nero Prime. This guy is a professional pilot in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I was sitting there watching him and I was going, wow, you're really good at this. And he goes, well, I'm not used to playing with the keypad. He says, I'm used to a joystick, but I don't have it hooked up right now. And I was asking him, I was saying, do you find it's better to play with a joystick than the keyboard? Because all I've ever done is keyboard.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, well, yeah, because I'm a professional pilot. And I was like,
yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah, you don't fly one of those with a keyboard.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that was it was really interesting to watch him. Nero Prime, thank you for letting me watch. I did one thing that I thought was cool was he said that he's been playing the game for 2 years, but he hasn't played it for about 6 months. He discovered our podcast and started playing the game. Is that not cool or what?
gosh, we just roped him back in.
Yeah. Squad owes us money.
You get a referral bonus.
Or at least a gift certificate to Burger King. or something.
Because we let them have their way.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's a good one. Have it your way.
Yeah.
Well, you want to hear my progress?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. My progress can be condensed down to this. Are you ready? Eve.
You just keep crawling back.
That's my whole progress for the week. Now, you remember I told you I spent most of the week messing around. You remember I told you I wanted to do I wasn't doing this because this is something I intend on using in the game, but for some reason I just started thinking about, I wonder if.
Yeah.
And so I spent most of the week creating an orbiting fuel depot with a quote unquote automated lander / miner.
Yeah.
That would deliver ore to the orbiting fuel depot, which would turn it into fuel.
Okay.
And I finally got one that was working very efficiently, and it was, it was not burning that much fuel getting down, and it was collecting the ore and then bringing it back up, and then the depot would process it into fuel. So that's what I spent most of the week doing. But I wanted to, 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned to you that I had problems with, when I landed on Eve, I sank in and it broke off the engine bells. Mm-hmm. So I I tweaked the ship to where the landing legs stuck out more.
Yeah.
And then for some reason
It caused everything else to mess up.
Yeah, for some reason that same ship, just because the landing legs happened to stick out even further, Now that same ship would not get down to Eve without burning up and exploding. So I redesigned an Eve lander with a heat shield, and I mean, I did the whole 90. I mean, this was meant to be an Eve buster ship.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I discovered about Eve. Eve eats heat shields for breakfast.
Oh, really?
Yes. I had a heat shield, and I actually put a heat shield on the bottom of it that was actually bigger than the thing that it was attached to. Okay, so I was almost using it like a sled bottom, and it worked. By the way, it protected everything under it.
Yeah,
it worked. But you know how you can right click on a heat shield and it says ablative, and then it gives you a unit number.
No, but I'll act like I do.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet, so.
Okay. Well, it says ablative, and then next to it is a number of heat shield units. And the heat shield I was using had 1,800 units. Mm-hmm. By the time I touched down on Eve, do you know what I had left? And this is not, I mean, I'm not kidding. This is literally what I had left. 0.01.
Wow.
The whole time I was burning into Eve orbit, I was sitting there watching my heat shield. The units were just.
So you have this like paper thin remnant of a heat shield left.
Yeah, and it got real. Once you get down to about 0.1, it really starts slowing down dramatically. And I think 0.1 is like the heat shield itself, like just the metal backing. Yeah. That all of the heat shield tiles were connected to. Mm-hmm. So when I touched down on Eve, all that was left of my heat shield literally was 0.01.
Yeah.
I burned up every bit of my heat shield getting down.
It's like having your like brake pads just metal. You know, like you lost your entire brake pad.
Yeah. And I mean, it was not it was not an extreme deorbit either. I mean, I came in, I think if I remember right, I think I set my periapsis at about 70. Once you get below about 73 or 74, that's when you start really getting heavy friction, and that's where the flames really kick up. Mm-hmm. I think I set my periapsis, if I remember correctly, at about 70.
Yeah.
And I rapidly deorbited. And seriously, the minute the flames kicked up, my heat shield started going. Quickly, rapidly. And when I touched down, I had nothing left but a smoking little ruin of a heat shield. But it brought me all the way down. And the whole reason I had been doing this, do you remember my idea was, could I land a ship on Eve, mine and refine ore, fill up my fuel tanks, and then get back into orbit?
Yeah.
Again, let me simply say, Eve. The answer is no.
Yeah. Not today.
No. Even with a full fuel tank, I still could not get much higher. I couldn't get much altitude.
Yeah.
Coming back up. And that's even with, big honking mamma jamma engines and the whole bit. I still could not get very high without running out of fuel.
So you may have to do the space plane thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, you've gotten better at that since the last time you tried it.
I guess. Eve just eats ships for breakfast.
Have you tried putting a drill and stuff on a space plane and using that to get down and back up again?
No. What I may do, I may cheat a little bit now that Freetoss, bless his heart, has handed me like this beautiful little space plane. Mm-hmm. I might actually
see how it goes.
Yeah, I might take that to Eve and see what it does. So
yeah, that may work out.
The only question I would have is, rockets, if you think about it, the architecture of a rocket is very much vertical. Mm-hmm. Everything in it goes from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Space planes, the architecture is all horizontal. It all goes left to right or right to left. So I'm kind of wondering, where would I put a drill?
Yeah, it would have to come out of the side or something.
Something.
And yeah, you'd have to have a cargo bay that it could be stored in and somehow function. Yeah. So, yeah.
The other thing I discovered too, this goes back to the automated landing, the miner that I was coming up with. part of the reason that I do things like, can I create a orbiting fuel depot and can I create a automated lander and things, part of the reason I do that is as a way to learn about certain things in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I have no intention of creating fuel depots and actually using them, but the mere act of creating them and using them teaches you about how all the parts work.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned, if I'm going to do any kind of refining, if you want to create an all-in-one unit where you've got a refiner and a drill on it, I discovered you also have to have an ore tank, because my initial lander was simply a drill, okay, a refiner and a drill. And the idea was it would land, it would drill the ore and refine it as it was drilling it and fill up the tanks.
Yeah.
Turns out you've got to have an ore tank, I guess, as an inner stage. In other words, it will not collect ore and process it unless you've got a tank. It will not feed directly. It won't feed ore directly from the drill to the refinery.
Yeah. It needs to take it from the drill to the tank to the refinery.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying with the space plane is, if I'm going to do what you're talking about, the space plane not only has to have a drill, it also has to have a storage tank.
Mm-hmm.
Which that would easily fit, I'm sure, in the cargo bay.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I learned. Also, mining and refining is very heat intensive, and apparently you've got to have solar panels to dissipate the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So those are a couple of things.
Yeah, there's
learned.
a lot of things you'd have to have in order to do that.
Yeah. Another thing, and I tip my hat to Freetoss, because I thought I had discovered a trick in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I wisely contacted Freetoss and I said, can you double check me on this? And he responded and straightened it out for me. What I found was, ore, when you collect it and you put it in your tank, a standard, there's two ore tanks, okay? One holds 1,500 ore units.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to say units.
Yeah.
And then there's a smaller one that holds 300 units. Okay. I discovered that one standard sized ore tank, in other words, 1,500 units, was enough to fill up a standard sized, fuel tank. Actually, I wrote it down. Let me look because I want to make sure I get my, terminology right. It is the Rocomax X232 fuel tank. Okay. One ore container almost completely fills that up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was discovering was that 1,500 units of ore created almost double the units of fuel. And when I say fuel, I mean fuel and oxidizer. Okay. So 1,500 gave you 3,000. Am I doing this? Yeah, it gave you 3,000 units of fuel, basically.
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, that means that the conversion rate is 2 to 1 or 1 to 2. In other words, you only take up half the mass of ore and you create twice as much fuel. Well, Freetoss, fortunately, explained the difference to me between mass and volume. He said, no, if you go in and look, it's the same mass.
Mm-hmm.
The mass, the ore that you take up, you may only take up 1,500 units of ore. When you refine it into fuel and oxidizer, you actually it's the same mass. You don't gain or lose mass by processing it. What you do, however, is it takes twice the volume to store the fuel and oxidizer than it does the ore. So it takes a smaller ship to transfer the same amount of mass in ore than it does the same amount of mass in fuel.
Yeah.
And again, fuel meaning liquid fuel and oxidizer. So you can make a smaller ship that has the same mass. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or that transports the same amount of mass of ore.
Yeah.
than it does with liquid fuel and oxidizer. But for a minute, I thought this would be perfect if you could take ore and convey it into orbit and then turn it into twice as much fuel. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not.
Yeah.
You're converting it into the same mass of fuel. But you're doing it in a smaller vessel. Fortunately, before I announced to the world, hey, I discovered this.
Yeah. And started your, mass profit empire.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I thought, if it truly was, if you could transport half the amount of mass in ore form and then convert it into fuel in orbit, think of how much that would save you getting it into orbit.
Yeah.
Well, turns out it's the same amount of mass no matter what you do.
Yeah.
What you save, however, is volume. So there's an advantage there, obviously, but the advantage is not mass. But again, thank you so much to Freetoss, because I contacted him and I was like, I figured something out. This is great. Woohoo! And he wrote back and he was like,
yeah.
Okay, there's this thing called mass and there's this thing called volume.
Yeah.
So
something, it was a thought that came to me while you're talking about, like refining ore and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I wonder, and this would only benefit in career mode.
Right.
And I know somebody's probably done it. You get money for the fuel that you don't use.
Right.
So, like, if somebody had a space plane with tanks that were at like a quarter volume and flew to a refinery, like somewhere that was drilling a refinery on Kerbin and fueled it up all the way and then recovered the vessel, like you could actually make profit off of.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Like you'd have drill sites.
Right.
And you would fly out to the drill site with empty tanks and fill them up, and then you wouldn't have to fly back. You could if you wanted to for flavor, but really you could just recover vessel and you would gain money off of the same vessel would.
Ooh, that's a money trick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how much you would gain.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure you gain money for the fuel you don't use.
Try that. I would love to try that and see if that works.
I don't have the drills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yet. So, I mean, if somebody in career has drills, like, I would like to hear if that is a thing you can do and if it's worthwhile. Because space planes don't use any fuel.
Right.
Like, especially if you're just flying around Kerbin, you could just be continent hopping and it's not going to use a whole lot when you have the air intakes and all that.
Right.
And an efficient space plane's going to use like nothing.
Right.
So if you make one that can fly just as well with a small amount of fuel and, go somewhere with like empty tanks or like low fuel tanks, fly there, fill up at the refinery, and then, just get money off of it.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of neat. Like I want to try that whenever I get drills. Just, have a refinery.
Okay. Challenge to the listenership.
Yeah. Deplete the natural resources.
Yeah.
Make mad profit.
There was another little trick I discovered too. When you're building a ship, you know how you can set the amount of fuel that's actually in the tank when you put it on the launch pad?
Yeah.
You can do the same thing with ore. When you put an ore tank on a ship as you're building it, the default setting is it's an empty tank.
Oh, okay, so you could leave with a
But you can change it in vehicle construction. You can actually move the slider to where a standard tank holds 1,500 units of ore on the launch pad.
So you can start off with...
You can start off with full ore tanks.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't quite figured out the advantage yet.
I think the advantage would be to make sure it can fly with a full tank.
Yeah.
And if you can fly with that, then you know that you can, use it on other planets or whatever to refine it.
Well, and again, one of the advantages is that if you have a ship that has full ore tanks on the launch pad, you aren't saving anything in mass, but you are saving volume getting it up into orbit.
Yeah.
Now, there's an advantage there that I haven't quite figured out. But you could literally, on Kerbin, you could create a ship that materialized on the launch pad with full ore tanks. In other words, you would never have to go mining.
Yeah.
You could just launch ships in orbit full of ore and never mine. Never mind when you never mine.
Yeah. I don't know how efficient it would be because, I mean, you have to take off with all that extra weight.
There was a Nirvana reference in there somewhere.
Yeah. I think that having them full is good for test flying, to make sure it's like, okay, well, if I land this thing, can I, launch it and get, leave the atmosphere with full ore tanks and not be too heavy to take off.
Right. One advantage I found is that if you're going to, and this goes back to the orbiting fuel depots that I was making, if you are conveying ore into orbit, you can do it with much smaller ships because you're not messing with the same amount of volume. And that's when because remember I told you I test everything in MUN orbit.
Yeah.
When I was messing with my fuel depot, I was doing it all in MUN orbit. And because the lander/miner was dealing with ore primarily, I did not have to have massive fuel tanks and massive engines to get it back off the ground and up to the orbiter. So there's the advantage with volume.
Yeah.
But I know somebody a lot smarter than I am is going to find more advantages than just that. But anyway, that's a couple of little tips about resource gathering for folks that are messing around with it and haven't quite gotten very far with it. There's a couple of things there that you want to keep in mind. Mass is one thing, volume is another thing. You cannot drill and refine unless you have a tank to actually collect the ore. And also you need heat shields to dissipate the heat. So that's my Kerbal progress. I have a different kind of progress. I won't even call this progress. This might even be regress.
Yeah.
But I have something else I was going to mention to you. I got a little taste of Gamergate this week.
What?
Oh, the face you just made.
What? What?
The face you just made.
What happened?
You don't even want to talk about this.
It's so stupid.
Oh,
what happened?
Tell me about it. Okay, you know that it revolves around Anita Sarkeesian. Is it Sarkeesian or Keesian?
She's one of the ones that was suffering from
Right.
this retarded stuff.
Right.
Sorry, that's not a correct word to say. This really stupid stuff.
Yeah. A game, she did a review of The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And she pointed out that when you play in the game as a female character, the NPCs hurl very gender-specific epithets at you. But when you play as a male character, they do not hurl gender-specific epithets.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, you know how this works. No matter what she says, no matter how reasonable it is, they're going to lose their minds.
Yeah.
Okay, if she sent out a tweet that said, you know what, I really think we should give food to starving orphans, Gamergate would lose its ever-loving mind.
So dumb.
I know. Well, anyway, she mentioned this is really unnecessary, and it's kind of stupid that if you play as a female, the game is hollering all these insults at you, whereas if you play as a male, it doesn't. Gender-specific insults, I should say.
Yeah.
Well, Gamergate, of course, lost its mind. And one of the guys, and this should have been my first tip, because I didn't catch it until later. He responded to the same post that she had made. One post, and he responded like 5 times.
Yeah.
So I should have known right there
The guy's nothing better
that I was poking a rabid dog.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he did was he posted a screenshot of the Metacritic page for Witcher 3. And the score is a 92.
Yeah.
And he posted with the screenshot the text, "Deal with it."
That's a stupid point.
Exactly.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, and what I said, I responded.
That's so stupid. That doesn't make any sense at all.
I responded, I said,
Yeah.
all that shows is that the game is popular. It does not invalidate her point.
Yeah.
You know those yappy little dogs You know, like the little 8-pound dogs that
Yeah.
they growl. And then if you get too close to them, they just go berserk and they start snapping and barking and biting.
Yeah.
At this point, he was growling. And I responded.
Yeah.
And so he went berserk.
The yapping ensued. Yeah.
The very first thing he told me was that I should go find my mom and engage in some really improper behavior.
Oh, well, okay.
You know, very reasonable
Yeah.
considering what I said.
Yeah.
The second thing he did was he attacked my masculinity.
Oh.
And then the third thing he said, and he didn't use this phrase, but the intent was the same. The third thing was basically, go make me a sandwich. Okay?
Yeah.
So, nothing on point.
Yeah.
At all.
That's just weird.
So I said, my response
Yeah.
was, I said, okay, well, since you didn't deal with the substance of my argument, I assume you concede the point.
No. No.
Because he immediately responded again with another attack on my masculinity
Okay.
and another call to make him a sandwich. And at that point, I thought, I don't have time to deal with yappy little dogs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I left it at that. I thought, he's making himself look bad. I'm not going to mess with this. Well, 2 days later, somebody apparently had been going through the tweets and they saw that little exchange. And so they tweeted to him, are you going to respond to his point or are you just going to hurl insults? And I said, no, he's not going to respond to my point because he's a obnoxious little troll. And if you give him enough time, he's just going to hurl more insults,
Yeah.
which boxed him in because his default response would have been to toss an insult at me. But because I said he was going to toss an insult, he couldn't do it,
Yeah.
which means that the only avenue he had left was to actually respond to my argument. So he decided to block me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Was an option, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he was when he freaked out and did the yappy little dog.
Yeah.
I went and I looked at his Twitter page. And you know how you can select under somebody's Twitter page, you can look at the media that they have posted. Like if you looked at mine, what you would see is you'd see a lot of screenshots of Kerbal.
Yeah.
And here recently you'd see a lot of pictures from the movie The Martian,
Yeah. Yeah.
with Matt Damon and whatever. What I found on his was a lot of mostly undressed women.
Of course.
I saw a teddy bear wearing stuff that would not have been out of place in 50 Shades of Grey. I'll just put it to you that way.
Okay.
And I saw a picture of a woman taking a selfie, and the caption read, "Feminism will always fail because it can't stop women from doing stuff like this." Which means that this guy has a bug up his butt about feminism in the first place.
Yeah.
And the fact that he went, like I said, I didn't realize that he had responded to her initial post 5 times. That should have told me right there that this guy was not looking for a reasoned debate.
Uh-huh.
Because the whole reason I mentioned it was I was really hoping he would respond with, the game is popular, you can't say this, you can't criticize it, to which I would have said, would the game have been more or less popular if they had taken that stuff out?
Yeah, it wasn't popular because of that feature.
Yeah, are you really trying to argue that the game's popularity is based on whether or not it insults you if you play as a female character?
Yeah.
Which would have absolutely, and I won't say it was a teaching moment because that sounds real condescending, but I really thought this is an opportunity to maybe get a point across.
Yeah.
And instead what I got was yappy little dog.
Not on the internet.
How she can deal with this stuff on a daily basis is beyond me.
Yeah.
Because it's insane. Yeah. I mean, there's no reasoned debate going on here. She says something and they lose their brains. Mm-hmm. And then she says something and they lose their brains. And that's the cycle that's going here.
Yeah. It's real stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's
Well, Michael, the guy that played Worf on Next Gen, Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
Somebody had tweeted out, there was an article or something, and it was talking about, if I remember right, it was Anita Sarkeesian, and then it was like Gamergate. And somebody tweeted, they said, well, there's her point of view, and then there's the Gamergate point of view, and so, the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And Michael Dorn responded, he said, well, yeah, on one hand, you've got a young woman whose life was destroyed. And on the other hand, you have an angry mob about, screaming about video games. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's a whole lot of middle here.
Yeah.
And I think somebody tweeted it or they put it on Reddit, but it was the day Worf destroyed Gamersgate. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it amazes me at how ridiculous this is.
Yeah. It's still going. That's the thing that gets me. And I kind of thought that it would have died down, but it's so stupid. Like, I don't know what that's the thing I'm going to keep saying because it's so stupid.
I go back to what I said about Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
You remember what I said at the time? I viewed the response to that movie as progress. Anytime a group feels that their power is being threatened.
Yeah. That their club is under attack.
That's how they respond. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason I see progress is, A, the fact that the yappy little dogs are...
Yeah.
I see that as progress because the guy that was engaging with me and hurling insults, he was making himself look so bad. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really having to do anything.
Yeah.
Gamergate has done so much damage to themselves. They've done more damage to themselves than anybody who disagrees with them could ever do.
Yeah,
and that's progress.
That's usually how it works, too. Is like whenever you're fighting for something that isn't, like whenever you want to keep things the same toward a change, and that change is something that is more inclusive to other people. Right. You're only going to make yourself worse because you're trying to promote the fact that you don't want other people to be involved or have a voice in what you're doing.
Right.
And you'll see it all the time. And it's like, you'll see people that just don't know that they're being on the wrong side of history.
Right.
Because it's like, things are changing. And, I'm sorry they're not going to be the same way for you forever, but, like, change is, the biggest constant we have.
I am not by any stretch of the imagination comparing what's going on with video games and the civil rights movement, the American civil rights movement.
Yeah.
But there is a parallel in what I said, and that is in the 60s, when you had things like the Selma March and stuff like that, when it got televised, you had a lot of white police officers clubbing peaceful black protesters. Mm-hmm. That did a lot to swing public opinion in favor of their cause.
Yeah.
Because people, instead of an abstract article, people were sitting in their living rooms watching this stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were seeing illustrated the whole point of their cause.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and again, I'm not comparing this to the civil rights movement, but it is the yappy little dogs.
Well, it's the same thing. Like whenever you saw people finding the addresses or personal contact information of all the people that were like, it's like releasing all of that and social security numbers and all that stuff. You're not helping your cause look better.
Yeah.
You're making yourself look worse.
Well,
it's kind of like if a popular pop song gets released and then you're called on to cover it. Don't mock it. Just do a better job of it. We're full circle here on Kerbalcast. We're full circle.
There is one question I would like to ask you.
What is that?
This is a podcast about Kerbal, right?
Yeah. Or at least so I heard.
Yeah. Well, I know that sounded like a huge digression, but
yeah.
I mean, it happened on the Kerbal Twitter.
Yeah.
The Kerbalcast Twitter.
Yeah. At least let people know
So
we're up to.
I'm sure for anybody who was watching our Twitter and they started seeing me say things like, well, since you haven't responded to my point, I assume you're conceding. I'm sure somebody was seeing that going, huh?
Yeah. So we're just letting you know what we did in social media lately.
Well, let's move on. Let's go ahead and get to our letters and tweets.
First stage expended. Second stage. The mission briefing.
And that means your letters and tweets. Let's start with Biff.
First letter comes to us from DK, who has been on this program before, and he says, Biff and Nos, this is the first time I've ever listened to a podcast and literally clapped. Dos Valdez is hands down the best KSP educator that is around, in addition to the best streamer on Twitch, in my opinion. This is largely because, unlike others, he is an educator by trade. When I first met Dos, he had 300 followers on Twitch. He now has 27,000, and he is doing it as a full-time gig. There's a good reason for this. I would love for him to appear on the show, by the way. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool to have, you know what? He could come on here and just absolutely shame us.
I don't know if he's got an educator background, then it's like, he's like, you could do better.
You know what? He'll hit us with rulers.
Yeah. And get our report cards and talk to our parents.
Yeah. Now, what I would love, I want Dos Valdez to come on this show.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, hey, Dos, how are you doing? And there's like this pause, and he goes, you guys just don't know what you're talking about.
No, we don't. That's like half the fun.
It's like, it's so painful to listen to you guys because you just don't know.
It's like Idiot Abroad, except we never actually go anywhere.
I love how you didn't say we're innocents abroad. Back to DK. That aside, I appreciate the kind words about the now outdated tutorial videos that I made. That tutorial series was stopped because after 3,000 plus hours in the game. Oof. Wow. Oof. I thought I was doing good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 3,000 plus. After that much time, I had burned myself out, but I'm now back to streaming the game and might be starting up the tutorial series again after the 1.0.3 release. DK. P.S. Don't let Dos hear that Nos likes Mr. Pibb over Dr. Pepper.
It's so good. You know what I found out last week?
Well, that Dr. Pepper's better than Mr. Pibb.
Impossible.
Do you know why?
Why?
Dr. Pepper went to school longer.
Yeah. Well, he's a working man, and I relate to him.
Great. He's a working class hero.
Yeah. So,
as soon as you're born.
You know what flavor it is?
What?
Spicy cherry. I do not.
Talking about Mr. Pibb?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't get a hint of either of those things. I still think it's good. I just don't know where that flavor, where they're like, oh yeah, it tastes like a spicy cherry.
Have you ever heard the story behind Dr. Pepper?
No.
It was, okay.
Doesn't it use plums?
Huh?
Doesn't it use plums?
I don't know. No, the ingredients of Dr. Pepper are a closely held secret, obviously. Yeah. Same thing with
Coke and
stuff. No, our generation and generations before us, one thing that we take for granted now that did not used to be the case, we can go, don't look at me like that.
No.
You're scrunching your face up.
We take everything for granted.
We take everything. We take electricity for granted. No, you and I can walk to the refrigerator right now and get a soda pop.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be that way. It used to be if you wanted a soda, you went to your local drugstore.
Yeah,
okay, and drugstores now are not like drugstores then. Drugstores then used to have lunch counters and ice cream and drinks and all kinds of stuff. You would go to the drugstore.
The soda jerk.
Yeah, that's exactly where that term comes from. You'd go there and it would be like, I want a Coke, and they would literally mix it for you and serve you this iced soda pop. And that used to be the only place you got it. When it actually got to where you could get it in bottles and have it at home and stuff, that was new. Mm-hmm. Dr. Pepper was created. The guy that created Dr. Pepper was in Waco, Texas. And what he did was when you walked into a drugstore back then, when you walked in, you could smell the ice cream and you could smell the food at the counter, and there were all these smells.
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper is meant to taste like a drugstore smelled back then.
Ah.
True story.
That's interesting.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that, like A&W root beer used to be the only way you could get it was go to an A&W root beer stand. Mm-hmm. Now you can get it in cans and bottles.
Yeah.
And
Man, okay, so
this is going to date me, but I remember as a kid.
No one would date you. You're married.
That's true.
You thought I was insulting your dateability, but no, I was complimenting your marriage.
You jerk. No, as a kid, I remember we would go to the A&W root beer stands. I remember as a kid when A&W became available in cans and bottles, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's no big deal, but at the time it was. Huh. Anyway, I'm sorry, you were saying?
I went to this, it was like a Spanish like dessert store thing. It was like a restaurant, and they had all sorts of. It was so complex. They had like mango.
Did they serve spicy cherries?
No, they had like mango chili pepper ice cream and stuff. But the main aside is that on the way out, I was just looking. I was like, I'm just gonna get something I can understand because there's complex stuff going on. They had cheesy queso ice cream.
Oh,
yeah, I know. The face sells it. Back to the letters.
Okay, I have a question before you continue.
No, I didn't try it. I may try it someday.
That was not my question.
Okay.
Is this podcast about Kerbal?
We're getting to it.
Yeah.
Supply runs by Caffeine Rage. Greetings. Thought I would drop you guys an audio letter pointing out a pair of mods I know of which handle automated supply runs. They handle the problem in different ways and look interesting, although I haven't tried them out yet. And he says, enjoy Caffeine Rage.
Greetings, guys. Caffeine Rage here. First time calling or writing in or whatever you call an audio letter. But that's beside the point, isn't it? In episode 51, you were talking about automating your supply runs for space stations. And you were right, modding is the answer to this problem. But you were also wrong on which mods to use. Cost and MechJeb do not control crafts outside of the physics bubble. But there are two mods that I know about that do have a supply mission system that runs in the background. Unfortunately, I don't have first-hand experience with either of these mods, but hopefully I'll be able to give you enough information to check them out, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be useful to you. The first one is called Davon Supply Mod. Think of this one as basically a SpaceX variant for your space program. What this does is it adds a couple space station parts, and you use those to call up a supply mission of liquid fuel and oxidizer. This naturally takes time, and it depends on where you have your space station. Unfortunately, limited to just the Kerbal system, so you're not going to be sending out a supply mission to Duna for a fuel depot, unfortunately. And also in career mode, it takes funds. But it is a good way to build a fuel depot in orbit and not run yourself ragged trying to refuel it. Well, at least until you get an asteroid in orbit. The second one is called Routine Mission Manager, and it's the more interesting of the two. Instead of having parts that you integrate into your space station design, you're recording your missions from launch up to your station and then back if you choose so. And what this does is you're able to replay those missions, and it will put the craft that made it to the station attached to that station's mission docking port that you designate, of course. It's a lot more flexible than the previous mod in that it seems like it would also incorporate other mods as well, even though I'm not 100% on that one. And looking through the thread for it, it wasn't exactly clear if that was the case, so I don't want to make promises that the mod can't keep. But if it holds up to what I think it would do, it would allow you to, let's say, resupply your life support for those who are crazy enough, like me and ABK, to actually run life support in a rather more deadly version of Kerbal Space Program. Not that Kerbal Space Program is exactly not deadly to begin with. But hopefully those two will put you on the right track. Or maybe there's other ones out there that I don't know about. These are just the ones I happened upon when I was looking for mods. And also, one other thing, Scott Manley, since you don't talk about him, does that make him he who must not be named? Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. And just remember, one man's crash landing is another one's leather breaking.
Oh, that's what I did. I didn't listen to this ahead of time, so that caught me completely off guard. Oh, that was so funny.
Yeah, that was good.
I have to say, I am in awe of this guy's voice.
Yeah.
Seriously, he is one of two things. He's either a late night FM DJ.
Uh-huh.
He's going to play some, we're going to play an entire album side and a little Steely Dan for you.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Here we go.
Just keep on grooving like your groovy self. Okay, he's either that.
Yeah.
Or he is like the most romantic guy. Because when he talks, you think like the lights should be low and you should be like lighting candles and playing like really soft music. And he's like, let me tell you about how to automate Kerbal.
I think he is
What?
an Olympic shot putter.
What?
I don't know. I just needed something completely different.
Where do you get that from?
Like all your things are based on voice. I just wanted to oh no, he's just a really good shot putter.
Where do you hear the shot putting?
Nothing. I just maybe I'm right.
Shot putting.
We have an Olympian shot putter on our show.
Is it? It's because of the shorts, right? You're thinking about the shorts, like the vinyl short, not the.
I don't know.
vinyl.
You're just making so many guesses based on his voice. I'm just guessing maybe.
Well, he's got such an awesome voice.
He does have an awesome voice.
You know what? I want him to send in a 2-hour audio letter.
And he went by Caffeine Rage, and I'm not feeling the rage.
I was gonna
but
say
maybe he hasn't had the caffeine yet. Maybe that was like an early morning letter.
Honestly, his name instead of Caffeine Rage, it should be like Mellow Yellow.
Yeah. Well, that's caffeine in it too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird.
Groovy Rage.
It's an odd looking beverage, but I didn't feel the rage, and I was glad. Like I heard his voice, and I was like, I don't want him mad at me. Like
No.
Yeah.
No, I heard, honestly, with that teddy bear voice,
Uh-huh.
I want him to love me.
You're married.
I want him to hug me and tell me everything's okay.
You're a married man.
But I want him
Read your letter.
to hug me.
Read your letter.
It's going to be okay.
Hey,
Biff.
you have a message from a captain.
From a Captain Rage?
No.
Captain Crunch?
Nope.
Captain Picard?
Nope.
Captain Kirk?
Captain Carcer.
Well, close enough. Hello, Niff and Boss. Niff and Boss.
You the boss. I don't know which one I am.
Bruce Springsteen? Who? Remember that story?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, off to the side. Other music to listen to while playing Kerbal.
Mm-hmm.
Early Pink Floyd.
Oh, okay.
Early track titles from Pink Floyd. Tell me this is not perfect. Interstellar Overdrive. Astronomy Donomy. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And be careful with that axe, Eugene. I don't know.
I've just been listening.
really don't
I've been
know.
listening to the stock music. Like I've just been listening to KSP's music.
Really?
So yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I'm going to go back to this for a little
Anyway,
bit.
early Pink Floyd. Definitely good KSP music.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Niff and Boss. Last week, Niff mentioned a lunar orbiting auto refueling drilling depot. Wow, I said all that. I think in the grand scheme of things, you are forgetting the other bodies with the ability to be mined. Asteroids. Step 1, capture a class C or D asteroid. Step 2, tow it back to LKO, low carbon orbit. Step 3, attach a drill, converter, docking port, and large fuel tank for storage. Keep the drill and converter running until the asteroid runs out of ore, then repeat as necessary. I'm not a good enough player to do this myself, but I had the idea when 1.0 was first released. Homer to your mobile, Captain Carcer.
Next letter comes up from What?
Good letter, by the way.
Oh, next letter comes up from Tafor, the awesome power of rockets.
Yeah.
Darn autocorrect. Pick should have been PC.
Do you remember the letter that you read last week from
Yeah.
him? And it made reference to, I think it was updating my pick or something.
Yeah, and I
That
was like,
autocorrect.
what pick? And I was like, oh yeah, PC.
Yeah, it was autocorrect.
That's what I get for trying to communicate on a mobile device during the commute, I guess. Oh, we appreciate letters, but do
Yes.
not write letters and drive.
Well, that's true. Well,
But it was the
when he
commute,
said-
so maybe he was on the bus or something.
I was thinking bus.
Okay.
So
Well, you can do that on the bus.
maybe, or like a bullet train
Yeah.
or something.
But don't miss your stop. I tried to buy The Martian today, but I learned that I shouldn't rely on looking out the window for my weather advice. A cold downpour caught me out in the open with no coat to speak of. No book for Tapor. Tapor sad.
Tapor said.
Yes, Biff, you shall remain the Dark Lord until you refrain from Big Daddy voice. Sure, it's hilarious, but it's also creepy. Very, very creepy. And Nos, you suck at impressions.
I wondered why he called me the Dark Lord. I didn't realize it had anything to do with Big Daddy Love.
Yeah.
You ready?
4.
Hello, baby. I'm Big Daddy Love, and I'm the Dark Lord. At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we shall have our revenge. Oh, baby. Yeah.
Please don't reveal yourself to anybody.
Well, I am a Dark Lord.
You're
know?
up next with Blue K.
Oh, that's right. I have to do this. You know, he mentioned The Martian. I was at a video store last week where they sell, the Criterion Edition Blu-rays.
Yeah.
One thing that there are snobs that I don't care what it is. If it's a book, a movie, you name it, I don't care what it is. There is always some snob that is going to pop up and tell you that there is an earlier version of it that is so much better.
Yeah, like before they added in the special effects
Or something.
and made Jabba's door so big and made him blink and stuff.
I've always been like 2 steps behind the snobs. I've never been able to be like proactively snobby. I found a movie, a Criterion edition of a movie.
Yeah.
And I have decided when The Martian comes out, the movie, I'm going to tell everybody I hate it. I've already decided I hate the Martian movie. You know
Okay.
why?
Why?
Because I prefer, and I'm sticking my nose in the air, I prefer the original.
Isn't this book recent?
Well, but I prefer the original version.
What is the original? Mars Attacks? Like,
Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
oh.
I was in the Criterion section and I found that and I thought, oh, this is my chance to be like a snob before anybody else.
It's funny. Lately, one of my buddies and I, we've been playing the Robinson Crusoe board game.
Right.
It's difficult.
Oh, is it?
So difficult. Like,
Well, that's because there's only one player.
there is.
Until halfway through.
There pretty much is, though. You're like controlling one person.
See, what it is, the game, it takes a week to play, and you only get the second player on Friday.
Yeah.
Get it?
Ooh.
Get it? You don't get it, do you?
No, I do get it.
Okay.
Yep. My Girl Friday.
My Girl Friday, which I think was I don't think that was Robinson Crusoe, but close enough.
All right. Blue K it.
Blue K. Okay. Failure can be fun is the letter. Biff and Nos. Most of my favorite and memorable missions involve a failure of design, planning, or piloting. Sometimes all three.
Well, you're going to love my ships.
I was going to say, he just described my gameplay. My latest involves losing all 4 docking ports during dual aerobraking while on the way to setting up mining operations at Val. With 1.0, I have a feeling we're going to hear more of this. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't used to lose things
Yeah.
during aerobraking like you do now. And that's because of the aerodynamics in the game. I'm now working on planning a maintenance mission to send engineers to attach new docking ports via Chaos. Is that Chaos? Yeah, it's Kaos.
Kerbal Attachment System.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes I shoot over these a little
Yeah,
too quickly.
KOS is Kerbal Operating System.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
That's the first time I've known these things.
Yeah.
I see these acronyms and I'm like,
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all right.
Robinson Crusoe on Mars, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So much better. It was so much better.
Get to it.
Let's see. He's attaching via Kerbal attachment system as well more fuel to finish getting from Jewel to Val. So, one screw up leads into hours of additional goals and gameplay. What are your favorite failures? Keep your periapses high, Blue K. What are your favorite failures? It's like that Sheryl Crow song, My Favorite Mistake.
So most of my, like, it's narrow victories. Mm-hmm. It's usually what it becomes. I haven't really done a rescue mission ever. Like,
really?
I've never rescued anything because I haven't had the stuff to attach things. I don't have a Kerbal attachment system, so I can't go and fix something. I usually revert if I have any sort of error, but I only revert once it explodes. So, like, if I still have the stuff to get by, like, I've, just having enough fuel to get back from the mun, like I was using RCS to propel myself until I got an encounter that led to an arrow break. That was like, it was a failure on my part to not have the amount of fuel properly planned, but it ended up working out. So I would say that's my favorite failure.
My favorite failure are the ones where you learn something. Even if it bombs your mission, sometimes you'll do something will go wrong, or you'll get somewhere and discover you're missing a part, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when that stuff happens, sometimes it's just aggravating and you have to revert back and pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
But sometimes things will happen during failures that will show you something that you never knew about the game, whether it's a maneuver that you never thought of, an aerodynamic that you never thought of. Sometimes you discover a right click that you never knew was there. Mm-hmm. You discover a feature that you never knew was there. The Kerbal does not come with an instruction manual.
Yeah.
And so you're left to discover a lot of things. Like, for example, last week, do you remember the people were saying to me, when you land on Eve and you start trying to mine, to prevent yourself from sinking in, lock your landing gear.
Yeah. Well,
I now have a hotkey, because you know how you can assign functions to numbers. I'll have like number 2, I'll push the number 2 key and it'll deploy my solar panels. Well, I have number 3 now, which after I've landed and I'm about to start mining, I'll hit number 3 and it auto locks the landing gear. Well, those are things that I had seen it, but I'd never thought of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that I sank in and dislodged my engine bells it enabled other people to go, there's something you can do about that. Well, that's the kind of failure that I like, where something happens and it leads to a solution that you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
Even though I knew that you could lock your landing gear, it never occurred to me why you would want to. Mm-hmm. Now I understand. And now, before I start mining, I always lock my landing gear. So anyway, I hope that answers the question. Good letter from Blue K. Thank you. You have the next one.
This comes from Pix.
Pixelclef.
Ground control to KPC Mission 52 comms. I just got a notice today that Gamers Edition has started taking orders for a swanky version of KSP. It's got a mobile, not a mobile, not like a mobile version, a mobile. So it's like one of those things that hangs above a crib.
When I tweeted out this, somebody immediately, they were, what do you mean a mobile version?
Yeah.
It's like, same thing I thought. No, it's the paper things that hang from the ceiling.
Figurines of Kerbals and a diorama, a copy of the game and a patch. Have to admit, I'm fanboying just a little bit. It looks pretty neat and helps spread the word. I'm totally not affiliated with Gamer Edition. On a side note, I spoke with them by email to confirm that the game is included as a Steam key and is therefore Mac, Linux, and Windows, despite the site initially saying PC only. Pix. Dimum pervenimus. We'll get there.
It's Latin. So.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. I'll pronounce it right eventually.
Dimum pervenimus. I don't know.
So
that's a neat sign-off.
Yeah, it's a neat looking edition. It's just kind of like if you want to have some stuff, a little Kerbal edition is kind of cool. They're taking orders, and we're going to put a link to it. They're taking orders when they get a certain amount of orders. That's when they're going to start making the game. Start making the special edition. I would love to have it. I think what I'm
I don't know that you can buy everything individually.
What is the cost?
It was like, I want to say $85.
Okay.
I think it's 85.
Now, I think I saw 3 figurines or something like that.
Yeah, there's 3 figurines, and I think it's
each
using...
of those is like 25 or something like that.
Something like that. And somebody pointed out one of the figurines is not Valentina, but I think this was before they cast a die for her. I don't know that there is a Valentina figurine yet.
Yeah,
but
like
I would have to.
They haven't made a mold for it,
yeah,
or a 3D printing model, or whatever process they're using to do it.
That would be neat, though. I would love to have Kerbal figurines.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That way, I could play with them all day.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, what's your progress this week? Oh, well, in the little house I built for him, there's some drama because we don't know who ate all the peanut butter, and so it's like, okay, well, how about the video game? Oh, I didn't play it. I was just playing with my figurines.
Yeah. I get it like a Barbie dream house.
Yeah.
And I have, like, honey, I'm home. That's my best Kerbal voice. Let's see. I have the next letter, don't I? This comes from Wingers. By the way, this is a Reddit post. This was somebody responded to something that we had on Reddit. It says, I love you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I'd have gone nuts from boredom weeks ago. I've powered through all the episodes and even downloaded episode 6 10 times for good measure. I'm Canadian, by the way.
Yeah. Got to protect the home front.
You know what I need to look? I need to look and see if episodes divisible by 6 are really popular in Canada. Because wouldn't it be funny if it's not just episode 6, but like episode 12
and 18
and,
And all those other ones, we're not going to bother doing the math.
I have to remember multiplication wrong.
Okay, so
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30.
This comes from Epic Da Vinci. The strength of the Kerbal community is something to cherish. Good day, gentlemen. The other day, something special happened on the KSP Twitch. I'm glad to say it revolved around our beloved game and community. I'm pretty new to watching official KSP Twitch channels, so I don't really know any of the people who stream on there. Anyway, I logged on and found that DK was streaming. The official KSP twitted had mentioned... No, okay, Twitter. I put that as the past tense of tweet.
Twitted?
Yeah, I twitted this. I had mentioned that he was struggling a bit financially, and if people could help out, then head over to the Twitch channel. To my surprise, as soon as I logged onto Twitch, he was in tears. I was confused at first what was going on, but to my pleasant surprise, those were tears of joy. The people on Twitch had been more than generous with donating money to him to help him out. I think one user donated $250. I was struggling financially a few years ago and know the stress it can cause people. It can really break you. Luckily, I got through it and really hope that with the money he was donated that night, he can get all of that sorted out again very soon. It was a testament to the moral decency some people have, and it was nice to see those people are part of our very friendly community. Even YouTubers who have millions of followers, Nerd Cubed for example, have mentioned that they think the KSP community is by far the most helpful and friendliest. I am proud to call myself a member of it. Yours sincerely, Epic Da Vinci. P.S. I'm new to your podcast. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. That was a great Twitch stream.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next one. We have an audio letter, and it is from Andy M.
Oh no.
It says, "Hi Biff."
I'm going to be answering for this for weeks,
and as well you should. Hi Biff. This little audio letter is for Nos.
Hey up, Duck. How at? Sorry for making me sound posh. I'd like to know. Cost kick a bow against a woe, edit back and bossed it.
Do you have any idea what he just said?
He transcribed that for me because I got a sentence of it. So,
what'd he say?
Hello, how are you? Thank you for making me sound posh. I would like to know, can you kick a ball against a wall, head it back, and burst it? I would not have known that otherwise, and I'm not going to try to do an impression of it.
You know what I love about the word posh?
Yeah.
It sounds posh. It really does. I mean, think of an American equivalent to posh. And it sounds so low rent compared to posh.
Mm-hmm.
Highfalutin.
Yeah. Like
stuck up.
You don't sound like any of those things when you do those things.
Yeah, you sound posh when you say posh.
Yeah.
You don't sound highfalutin when you say highfalutin. Anyway, Andy M says, no, this is the actual real letter.
Hi, Biff and Nos. I've been continuing with career mode, and eventually took a contract that had 3 temperature survey points on the far side of Kerbing. I didn't realise exactly how long it would take to fly to the far side of Kerbing using a low-tech plane. The idea would have been to have gone into space, got into orbit, and then drop back down at the correct point. But currently this is beyond my tech tree capabilities. So, I built a small jet plane with 5 fuel tanks and 1 engine, some swept wings and plenty of intakes. It was stable enough to get to 12 kilometres, doing a speed of 150 metres per second. In fact, it was actually flying that stable that I could happily let it go to 4 times slip. So I was happily travelling along, not having to touch the controls. At this point, I got a little bit distracted and was talking to my wife when there was a sudden explosion. I looked back at the screen to find there was nothing left of my plane. The initial cause was attributed to my wife approaching my PC. She has some very strange static fields that play havoc with any kind of electronic equipment. So, that was about 20 minutes of time wasted. I thought, I'll have another go. But I didn't have that much time left, so I ended up messing around and putting some rockets on my wings and see what I could try and get into space, but it all went very silly. So, I came back the next day to try again. Again, I got into a stable flight, went to 4 times time slip, made sure my wife was at the house, and again, this trip takes a long time, so I got distracted, and the next thing I heard was a bang, and everything was gone. After headbutting the keyboard a few times, I studied the mission log. The mission had ended at about 1 hour 25 minutes, so I decided to give it another go. This time, when the mission clock reached an hour, I started to pay close attention. About 1 hour 20 minutes, my plane had a slight wobble, and the pitch controls stopped trying to keep the nose in the air. So I quickly took to the controls and put the plane back into stable flight. Everything was fine, so I continued on towards the waypoints. At this point, KSP crashed. So, I reloaded the game, and it was saved my plane on the runway. I went to bed. Next session, I went through the same procedure, and again, at 1 hour 20 minutes into the mission, the plane wobbled and started to drop. I corrected it, and then saved the game. I flew a bit longer, and then KSP crashed again. At this point, I decided that going to bed was probably a good idea. Another week went by without getting much time for KSP. Eventually, I found my way back. I continued on my journey from my save point. I managed to complete the first temperature survey, and then I went to land for the next 2 points. After successful landing on nice open grasslands, I taxied to my 2 waypoints, taking the temperature readings. I had a thought about it. I thought, I'll attempt the flight home. So I saved the game, and off I went. Again, nice stable flight. The wobble happened again, roughly probably at the same time. I corrected it, and then the game crashed. At this point, I reloaded the landed plane and recovered it. I thought, it's probably not going to happen. Home and T-Mobile, and the M.
I've had that so much where like you do it and like and everything doesn't work out. And you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it again, and then nothing works out. And you're like, oh, okay.
I have 2 comments.
Yeah.
Comment number 1. Do you remember now what he sounds like?
Yes.
Okay, keep that in mind from now on. That's
not,
Andy M.
It's not like I found it annoying or anything.
That's
I like
not
it.
Freetoss.
I know. I don't know. I like his voice.
Comment number 2.
Yeah.
I've only been married for a couple of weeks. Even I know you don't blame your wife. Okay? I mean, there's just...
She could put off static fields, though.
Yeah, but you don't say anything.
You don't want to bring that up.
Be like, honey, am I putting off static? No, of course not.
No, your static fields fit you great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make them look good.
Yeah.
Like I would never have my electronics interfered with by another static field. You're the only static field for me.
I like crashing.
Yeah.
I like how you come around and mess up my game. I really enjoy that. In fact, it's my favorite thing about you.
I've had times where girlfriends would talking to me, and she'd say something, and I'd turn over and say, what? And like right as the explosion happened, like, what? She's like, did I cause that to happen? I'm like, I want to blame it on you, but it's me. It's not you, it's me.
I meant for that to happen.
If there's a crash, it's me. I can't pass it off on you.
Hey, Nos.
Yeah.
What time is it?
It's time for the tweets. Time for the tweets. This one comes from Flosin. Imagine if KSP becomes a feature film.
I have a suggestion.
For?
If KSP becomes a feature film, do you know what the theme song needs to be?
What?
It's Not Easy Being Green.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that easy being green. I'm green, and it'll do fine. It's beautiful. And I think it's what I want to be.
Sorry. Go ahead. Alex Boyd.
Alex Boyd. Reaction wheels provide torque to help rotate a vessel. They don't provide SAS. The location basically doesn't matter.
I was partially right then.
Yeah. Freetoss. Would you like to see me expand on topics beyond spaceplanes on Kerbalcast?
Yes.
If so, what?
Yes.
Mike Doling. Perhaps talk about getting a spaceplane to the other planets with Atmo and the design changes required to fly there. Mittenpo. Started listening to audiobook of The Martian. I'm at 3 hours of 10 hours and 53 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm recommending it.
Oh my gosh, do you know what I'm recommending?
What?
I think the guy that wrote The Martian owes us money.
Or does he owe money to Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
That's true, because, that film was so much better. The original was so much better.
Andrew Mason, I have an identity crisis. Really enjoyed Freetoss Flight Fundamentals, and now I'm really tempted to install FAR. And Turkhot282, Biff, just wanted to say The Martian is a fantastic book so far.
Notice he didn't say that to you?
Oh, and yeah, because I haven't read it. Maybe I'll get around to it. Hey, and I want to say MK3424. I know you tried to watch my stream whenever I was playing yesterday, or what, I guess when this comes out, it won't be yesterday. Whenever I was playing, I'm sorry I didn't let you watch, but the moment I accepted it, it crashed my game.
Really?
So, nothing against what static field you may or may not have, but for some reason my computer was having none of it. So, it's nothing personal.
I go back and listen to the podcasts after we post them because I want to, hear how everything comes together. People will be forgiven if they listen to this podcast frequently and think that you and I are absolutely obsessed with two things.
What?
The Martian.
Yeah.
And Top Gun.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the number of times we reference Top Gun, and I haven't seen that stupid movie since it came out.
I've never actually seen it all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. Like I've walked by.
You can't get past the volleyball scene.
No, I've never even seen the volleyball scene. I've never actually really seen the movie.
You don't want to see the volleyball scene.
I think I've seen like a collective 20 minutes of it.
If you saw, let me put it to you this way, much like the Gamergate guy.
Yeah.
If you saw the volleyball scene, you would question your masculinity.
Oh.
A bunch of greased up guys playing volleyball on the beach.
Oh, yeah. All about that.
Hey, Nos.
Yes?
What time isn't it?
It's not time for the volleyball.
It's
not time for the volleyball.
We're done. That's right. We're done. That's right. We're done with the tweets.
Final stage expended.
All right, that means we're wrestling this thing down to the ground, and that means it's time for Freetoss and Flight Fundamentals.
Greetings, Kerbonauts. Freetoss here with Episode 8 of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals. First off, I'd like to thank everyone who sent in suggestions for future topics to me on Twitter. I was nearing the end of my list and got quite a few good suggestions. That being said, if you have an idea for a topic you'd like me to see covered in a future episode, please send me a tweet or a Steam message. I'm on the lookout for new topics to cover, whether related to aircraft, rockets, or anything else KSP related. This week, I'm going to be discussing vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, or VTOLs. These aircraft take off and land vertically like a rocket or helicopter, then transition from vertical to horizontal flight like an airplane, before switching back to vertical flight to land. These type of craft are great for anomaly hunting on Kerbin, if you picked up the contract pack mentioned last week. They're good at this because they can land very precisely and don't need a long flat stretch of ground or a runway. I find the island runway southeast of KSC to be pretty short and difficult to land on consistently, but with a VTOL, I can put my craft down in front of the hangars or on top of the VAB without much trouble. VTOLs are all about balance. You want just about everything to be balanced symmetrically about your vertical engine, mass, fuel, even your lifting surfaces. When taking off or landing on the vertical engine, you don't want your craft to tip forward or backward because your mass isn't well distributed. It's a good way to crash. For this reason, I suggest starting by placing a cargo bay, which opens down, as your root part. Distribute your fuel tanks symmetrically in front of and behind the bay. Then add your cockpit in front and your horizontal engines in the rear. Then add your wings and a tail like you're making a normal airplane. Keep in mind, however, that you want your wings and center of lift to be as close as possible while still being behind your center of mass. If your wings are too far back, the extra drag while moving vertically may be enough to tip you forward or backwards. As you're constructing, make sure to keep your center of mass inside that central cargo bay. Once you're happy, place a cubic octagonal strut on the inner surface of the cargo bay's roof and mount your vertical jet engine on that. With the nerf to the basic jet engine in 1.0, I usually need to use a turbojet for my vertical engine, which makes me sad since it doesn't fit in the Mark II cargo bay when closed without clipping. Use the offset tool in the VAB to make sure that your engine is as close to your center of mass as possible. Make sure that your thrust to weight ratio on your vertical engine is enough to lift the rest of your craft. Finally, air brakes and flaps are very useful for VTOLs. Set up action groups for either the FAR or stock flaps. They'll be handy when you're coming into land. Also, set up action groups to toggle that cargo bay, as well as toggle your vertical and horizontal engines. Make separate action groups for these, since you may want both engines running at the same time. Once all that is set up, you can take it out to the runway and see if you can fly. Piloting can be tricky, but I'm running a little long, so I'll talk about that next week. I'll also try and update the Hummingbird VTOL on my Kerbal X page to 1.0 stock and FAR-friendly versions between the release of this episode and next week's. That's it for this week. If you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, you can feel free to send me a message on Steam or tweet to me at Freetoss7. I'll talk to you again next week about piloting and troubleshooting your new VTOL. One last thing. So far, I've been letting people watch me play KSP on Steam, but it's not the best out there. Would people be interested if I set up Twitch broadcasts instead? Let me know. I may try it out soon, so you can watch how much I fail before I get things right for you guys. Biff may hate me for how well the Kerbalcast spaceplane works, but he doesn't know that the version you guys have was like my 7th attempt. Alright, that's it for real. Talk to you guys next week. Homer to your mobile.
No, it's not true. It's not true. He never fails.
No.
He is perfect.
Never.
Freetoss is perfection. You know what? Okay, I have a suggestion. Do you know what I would like to see in future episodes of Kerbalcast?
What's that?
I want Freetoss and Caffeine Rage to do like the whole show.
Yeah. I would listen to that.
I would too. I would love it. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Of course, the only thing is, though, you'd have to turn the lights down and light candles.
I don't know. We've had 3 people on before, so I say bring Andy M also.
Yeah.
And you know what? Bring Amy and DK.
And DK.
Let's call it Dark Mushroom again. Let's just have it impossible to transcribe.
Do you know what? I want every person that's ever been on this show.
Yeah.
All of us will come on together and we'll all sing Love Shack. That's a callback.
Yeah.
It's a callback.
Man, I wouldn't want to be the one who transcribes that one. Like, all the voices going off at once.
Well, think about how easy that episode would be to transcribe, though, because it'd be just, like, Love Shack.
Yeah.
Love Shack. Baby. Love Shack.
Love Shack.
Oh, and in case anyone's curious, it's Tin Roof Rusted. That's what she says.
Oh, okay.
Tin Roof Rusted.
Love Shack, baby. People don't know what that means a lot of times.
I've listened to the whole song before. I've listened to that. I've experienced more of that song than I have Top Gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So why do we talk about Top Gun so much?
I don't, because it's stupid.
I guess.
It's so dumb.
I feel the need for closing the show. We want to say thanks to our listeners and our regular contributors, and that includes everyone who sent letters to us. Audio letters, yes, we love the audio letters.
They're great.
And we love the tweets. And also a big thank you to the subreddit moderators for Kerbal Space Program and Kerbal Academy. Lots of good information on those pages, and also a link to us as well, which does not count as the good information.
And episode music comes to us from Professor Soap. Look for him on facebook.com/Professor Soap or at profsoaplive.com.
And a big thank you to Ascalon, who posts episodes of Kerbalcast to YouTube each week and has taken on the Herculean task of transcribing them.
Good luck.
So one of these days, Hober to your mobile will be a thing of the past.
Well, no, because then they're going to be transcribing all the ones where we say Homer to your mobile.
That's true. Well, okay.
It never dies.
That's
it
a
never
Mobius,
dies.
That's a Mobius loop. So
if you would like to contact Kerbalcast, you can find us at kerbalpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow us at Kerbalcast on Twitter. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes to get the show directly downloaded every week.
And if you want to do a complete download, a completely direct, if you want to sidetrack iTunes
and go straight to the source,
we are online. It's kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com. You can also find us on Steam unless you crash us, which is what Nos said.
He didn't mean it. He didn't mean to do it.
I didn't mean it.
MK3424 is innocent.
He's innocent. He's an innocent abroad. We are online on Steam as Biff Aldrin and Nostromo.
If you'd like to support Kerbalcast, you can donate on patreon.com/Kerbalcast. We also encourage you to donate to any of your Twitch streamers because we just appreciate them so much.
Their awesomeness.
Yeah. The Kerbal Twitch streamers, though. If somebody's twitching something else.
I don't know. Barbie Adventure Island, I'm telling you.
I would watch 5 minutes of that. I would watch more of that than I watched of Top Gun.
People need to go on Twitch and donate to Dos Valdez, but you need to send your donations in, and you need to say, I'm only giving you this because you're going to go on Kerbalcast.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell those idiots they have no idea what they're talking about.
So that wraps it up.
You know what, though? I'm in his camp.
Yeah,
Dr.
what?
Pepper is so much better than Mr. Pibb.
Okay, we'll have that fight.
Because you know what? It tastes like a drugstore smells.
Oh, yes.
An old drugstore.
Yes, that's...
not a new drugstore.
That is a selling point right there. It tastes like a building smells.
You know, that's probably the reason they probably don't do that anymore. They probably don't publicize that anymore is because now people would go like, okay, modern day drugstore smells like anesthetic.
Yeah.
And ammonia. And be like, I don't want to taste that.
Would you rather have that or a spicy cherry?
Yeah, no. Ice cream and cherries and... Anyway, that does it for Kerbalcast episode 52, The Lesser of Two Evils. Shaking it off, I am your LNP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, our CMP, Command Module Pilot
Nostromo.
Until next time, happy Kerbaling.